Imagine living in a world where the desire for freedom, the need for wanting to be free, was considered a mental illness. Sounds ridiculous today, right? But 200 years ago, or less than 200 years ago, this was an actual medical diagnosis for people having this melanated skin. And you may be wondering, what will make someone come to a conclusion of that kind of ridiculous diagnosis? Well, in 1851, an American doctor named Samuel Cartwright introduced this diagnosis called Drapetomania. According to Cartwright, he strongly believed that Africans, or enslaved Africans now to be specific, who decided to run away from slavery were not making a logical decision. Instead, he was convinced that they were mentally ill. Think about that for a second. Think about that. Like a desire for freedom or a need for freedom that almost every human being share was now redefined as mental illness. Not just for everybody now, but for a selected demography of people. And the most interesting thing about this diagnosis was that it was not scientifically proven, it was not evidence-based, but instead, it was a diagnosis that was meant to back up an existing profitable social structure, which was called slavery. And what was the logic behind this diagnosis, according to Cartwright, or by Cartwright? It was simple. If running away was considered a mental illness, thus the slave that decided to want to run away was mentally ill, then there will be no need to question slavery or the institution of slavery, because that will not be the problem. Slavery itself will not be the problem, but the individual slave that decided to want to run away, or that desired to have his own freedom, that will not be the problem. That person will not be the one that is mentally ill. And this, my friends, is one of history's greatest examples of how science can be used to back power instead of the truth. And what can we learn from this whole context, or from this story, from this phenomenon or example? It's simple. Psychology teaches us how to understand the human mind. But history is trying to remind us that psychologists themselves, they are humans too. And humans tend to mistake societal or cultural norm with science. And that'll be all for today, guys. Bye. Catch you on the next one.